Welcome back to the Bob Davis Podcast YouTube channel. This is the place where I talk about my content in my audio podcasts at thebobdavispodcast.com. And I'll put links in the description box for the podcast that I'm going to talk about in this video here on the YouTube channel for thebobdavispodcast.com. Welcome. This is a video about the Las Vegas to Joshua Tree podcast that I put up, just a few days ago, right before sort of the last week of October. And in this podcast, I talked about how, it kind of dovetails quite nicely with this question of how and if we can predict the future, which I don't believe that we can predict the future. And in that podcast, we can't predict the future. I talked about things that sort of come up and bite you in the ass that you're not prepared for, and you can never predict what's going to happen. Well, that actually happened to me. I was ensconced in Quartzsite, about 20 miles from Quartzsite, in a very deserted, not dissimilar to this place, campground. Excuse me. And I poured water on my computer accidentally. A long story, but I went up to Parker to go to the Walmart, very distracted mentally, and left a bottled water on the refrigerator. And I have a power station. I usually put the power station on the floor because I don't want it on a counter while I'm driving in Mobile Podcast Command, which is right here. And so what happened was, I left the Parker Walmart, forgot that the water bottle was on top of the refrigerator. The water bottle bounced off the refrigerator, bounced off the power station, bounced up onto the desk where I keep the computer and anything that can't have water. So that is an area that water is verboten in. And it bounced up. It was full. There was no cap on it because dumbass didn't put the cap back on the water bottle. And it flooded the computer. Now, I've had that computer since something like 2014, maybe even actually probably 2011. And it was on its last legs. Anyway, the hard disk was bifurcated, and it just was very slow. And so I thought, well, maybe it's the power cord because I couldn't get any power into the thing. So I thought I would go to Parker where there's a computer repair place. They were closed. Went on up to Havasu City where they have another branch. Had a great conversation with a guy in this place. It's called Click It Computer. And I said, hey, I'm looking for a power cord for an old school Pro Mac. Or not Pro Mac, but MacBook Pro. And he goes, well, I'm the mail guy. This is a mail place and also a computer place. And as the mail guy, I can't touch any of the computer stuff, but I'll go back and look and see if we've got one of those cords. Well, they didn't have one. And at the time, he goes, well, what are you going to do? I go, well, he goes, I have one at home. I'll go home and get it if you come back over here tomorrow. And I said, well, I think I'm going to go to Scottsdale and just go to the Apple store at Scottsdale. And he said, why don't you just go to Las Vegas? And I was like, I really don't like Las Vegas. He goes, yeah, I know, but here's the thing. So if you go to Phoenix, it's going to be 5 hours and considerably more miles. If you go to Las Vegas, you just go right up 95 till you get to, somewhere around Searchlight, and then you just drive right into Las Vegas. So I didn't want to. I got back to the truck. I looked at the map, and I realized that he was right, and thank you. I said that in the podcast. I didn't get the guy's name. I actually asked him his name. I don't remember it. So thanks to him, I went to Vegas. And I thought this is going to be a disaster because I went to Town Square Mall, which is right on the edge of the Strip, right near 15, where you get on 15 there, which becomes 215. So I got in there, and it was very easy. I was surprised. Got in there, got my new Mac, and then I thought, I was just in the mood for a different adventure this winter here in the Southwest rather than just sitting in Quartzsite. And this is a theme probably of the next couple of podcasts that I'm going to do, which is this idea that for me, just sitting it just is. It doesn't do the trick. Just sitting is just not good for me because I have to be moving in order to come up with new content and to talk about things that I see and experiences that I have as a nomad. And I thought, well, I'll just come over here to Joshua Tree. I love Joshua Tree. Been here a bunch of times, and I actually camped here in this campground. I don't know, 3 years ago with a bunch of people way over there. And this time I came out here on this dry lake bed. And the dry lake bed is great as long as it doesn't rain. So if it rains, you got to find someplace else to go until it dries out. You don't want to be out here when it's raining. But so far, it's been absolutely fantastic. When I did the audio podcast, there was a huge windstorm. That's one of the reasons I keep putting the headphones on, because I want to make sure we don't have too much wind in the microphones. It's very hard to record a windstorm. You have to place the mics perfectly, but it was just surreal out here during the windstorm. You couldn't even see those hills back there. There's a bunch of people camping over there. Couldn't see them at all because this whole field of dust just kept blowing up. And what it has done is it's filled up all the tracks with dust. So when you leave to go to the store in Joshua Tree, which is better than Quartzsite because, the Walmart is 13 miles away from here. There's a Starbucks, there's Wi-Fi, there's all sorts of other services here that just don't exist in Quartzsite. And it's a different vibe over here. And I like it. I don't know how long I'm going to stay here because there's a bunch of other places I can go in California. I have relatives in Fullerton and Big Bear. There's lots of places I could go. So it's just kind of refreshing to be back out on the road and back in an environment that I'm not quite familiar with. So I feel like I'm learning new things. I had a great drive up to Vegas, had a great experience at the Apple Store in Vegas. People say, well, how do you just go and buy a new computer? Well, I did a little research and I figured out what I'm going to need, and I want to edit audio and I want to edit video as well at some point on this computer, and I'm going to have it for a while. So I bought a mid-range Mac Pro, which set me back quite a few, and I could have spent even more if I'd wanted to, but I thought, okay, we'll just do mid-range. That should be fine. And it has been great. And I really couldn't do much because I needed Wi-Fi, and there's some other issues with data transfer from the old computer because it's dead. So I have to figure out where all the accounts are. And going back to 2011, that becomes quite an issue. And I don't need to detail that now. But I stayed in Searchlight at the Terribles and Truck Stop in Searchlight, which is a great little truck stop because they don't care if RV people stay there, and there are a lot of people there. So that was really great. And it's still a little early. It's just at the end of October, and a lot of people don't come down until November and early December down here in the Southwest. I have a feeling that this little area is probably not going to get too crowded, just simply because it's so tentative. This is a 14-day BLM area, and of course the national park is down the road. Actually, it's down this road, but the problem with... No, it's that way, sorry. The problem with the national park is that you have to pay. So if you don't want to pay, then you just sit out here, but you have 15 days. Now, I've not seen any rangers, and I know people have been here longer than 15 days. So I'm not too worried about that. And if I have to move, I have to move. But usually when I was here, I think it was 3 years ago. It wasn't that crowded. There were more people here than there are now, and that was at the end of the season. I think that was in like February that we came over here because we wanted to go to Slab City. And I think we went to Slab City first, and then we came here. I don't remember what we did, but Slab City is horrific. I wouldn't recommend Slab City. Anyway, we came here, and it seemed to be at that time that it was a lot more crowded than it is now. There's some bus people over there. We might have a ton of buses here this weekend. We'll see what happens. But the idea of travel again is really attractive to me. And some of the things I talked about in the podcast, first of all, a lot of the staying in Quartzsite was predicated on the idea that fuel was so expensive at the time. I mean, at that time, I think we hit a high at some point in 2022 of $130 a barrel oil, which made the price of fuel even cheap. If you went to an independent refueling station, you'd be looking at $4.50, maybe even $5 for diesel. And it has come down considerably. I checked the price of WTI, which is most of the oil we use in the United States is West Texas crude. We do import oil, but most of it's West Texas crude. That is what we use here in the U.S. And it's 60. I think it's $67 or $68 a barrel, give or take, maybe 70 right now, which is translating to, even in California, considerably cheaper fuel. Now, I'm not using fuel like I do when I'm traveling, so I'll fill up probably, and I put half a tank in. So I'm not fully exposed to California fuel prices, which is something like $4.67 for diesel, which is insane. In any case, if I pay cash, I can get it for $4.33. But hopefully, when I get ready to leave, I'll be looking at much cheaper fuel in Arizona or Nevada or wherever I go, as long as it's not California, which, it's war on diesel over here, which is just silliness. But I talked about the sitting in Quartzsite, which became kind of a habit. Oh, I'm going to go to Quartzsite and I'm going to camp in Quartzsite. It's going to be great. Well, that's fine and well, and it's wonderful. But when you do it for 3 years, you notice things. And as I have talked about in a couple of videos and a couple of podcasts, the situation in Quartzsite continues to deteriorate. So I talked about that a little bit in this audio podcast, and I'll just refer to it lightly there. And I'm not sure who I blame. I don't think there is anyone that you can blame for it. It's just conditions. I think nomad life has changed considerably since that period of time right after the movie was released in the height of COVID, when people decided to jump in their vehicles and head out and just be somewhere that wasn't locked up in a house or an office someplace. And they didn't have to be at work because we could work remotely. Everybody was on unemployment or PPP or something. And there was lots of disposable income, and there was a lot of people out here at that time. I think that's changed, and I think we're back down to the RVers and the real nomads who are fully committed to this lifestyle. And that's an interesting change for me, because I realized when the computer broke and I had to go to Vegas, and then I came back down here and I realized there's lots of other campgrounds in California and Nevada and places like that you can go. Now it gets a little colder. Here it's a beautiful day. It's mid-70s and it's fantastic. But this is at 2,400 feet. Quartzsite is about 400 feet, so at the most. So here you're a little much more of a higher desert. As if you've ever been to Joshua Tree, you know. So it gets a little colder at night in the desert up here than it does literally 100 miles to the south of here, or even further south if you go to Yuma. So that's can be kind of a struggle. I don't have real good insulation in mobile podcast command, so I end up having to break out all the blankets and the cow blanket and the sleeping bag and everything else. I bought an electric blanket because I have this power station and solar now, so I can recharge every day. And the problem with the blanket is it draws quite a lot of power, so I have to be careful of how much I use it. But it is pure bliss when it's 40, literally 40. Now, people say, especially if you're from the northern tier, 40 degrees, what's your problem? Well, when I came down after spending all summer in Wisconsin, I came down in September to Quartzsite, and it was 114, 115 degrees. Well, when you get acclimated to 115, believe me, 75 is cool. 40 is ridiculous. So it's all about what your body is used to, and that's kind of a fun thing about being out here. Once you're out here for a while, especially when it's warm, you get acclimated to warmer temperatures, and you really it may as well be 14 below out there. It's silly because I've been and lived most of my life in the northern tier and been through many a 14 below zero day, night, week, month in Minnesota and Wisconsin and Chicago, and this is bliss compared to that. So anyway, There's also another podcast which I posted. I'm not putting a link in this video for that podcast because this is about the Las Vegas to Joshua Tree experience. The other video, as the wind comes up, and that's the other thing about this place, the wind shifts constantly. Now, when I came over here to start shooting, there was no wind on this side of the vehicle. Now it's all over here and it's blowing, and we've got mic filters and everything else, and it doesn't always help. So I will keep this fairly short. The whole thing about traveling from Las Vegas all the way back down here, I don't really know what I was talking about. Let's see if I can remember it. Anyway, I got completely... So when I hear wind in the microphones, it drives me nuts because I'm an audio guy. So sorry if you've noticed it. It's not as bad as it is on some videos that people do. So I think I've found a good place to shoot. But yeah, I'm going to make this short because of the wind issue and because there's another video, which I'll be doing here shortly, which celebrates my 4 years on the road. And that audio podcast is up already, but I'll just put a link to the Las Vegas to Joshua Tree podcast here. A couple other things about Joshua Tree that I should mention. First of all, Joshua Tree has a lot more services. I should have mentioned that. I may have. And because Joshua Tree has more services, it's a little more genteel, even if it's more expensive in California. So if you're thinking about coming over and you're used to a Starbucks and a Del Rio taco place or whatever it's called, or Del's taco place, and some restaurants and health food stores, they got them here. So, and also Yucca City. So there you go. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing to the BobDavisPodcasts.com, as well as to this YouTube channel. Should be putting a new video up about the 4 years of travel anniversary pretty soon here. And then enjoy your travels. Enjoy being a nomad if you are. If you aren't, enjoy watching. And I will have a lot of people to thank, hopefully, in the next few podcasts, because I'm getting a lot of donations for the podcasts. Anyway, I'm rambling. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking all of that stuff. And I will see you when I see you.